How's it going, you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs. Today I'm going to walk you through the complete process of putting a new outdoor faucet, also called an outdoor spigot, where we do not have an existing water line. I want to locate this one right behind that bush to kind of tuck it away, and there's a few things that we need to figure out because I do have access to some copper water lines in this unfinished part of my basement, but I'm also going to have to navigate this finished basement bathroom where the water line will be running right above this finished ceiling. So how do we deal with this? We'll also talk about copper, PEX, and I'll show you a little trick that will help in any future maintenance or repairs needed at this location, and it'll save you a ton of time. So first, let's just get our bearings and a plan of attack. My first floor, we have the front door and then a little kick out to the office, and right outside the office is where the outdoor faucet will be located. So I could get a measurement from that wall and then translate that to my basement because I know that the bathroom is right below the office and that foundational wall will be similar to the outside wall. So I could take that measurement within the basement bathroom and get a rough idea, knowing that I also have to navigate a little bit more finished ceiling through this hallway right here, and then go to the unfinished part because I want to locate a ball valve to shut off this part so I can easily service this outdoor faucet in the future. So if you have an unfinished basement or crawl space, at least it's much easier to see exactly where you want to tap into your water line. Now I've located this. I also used the reference of my exhaust fan in this bathroom. I saw the exhaust pipe going out between a cavity and I want to be one cavity over, which is right here. So that gives me my bearings, and I can use a magnetic stud finder like the stud mark. And just for your reference, you'll see links in the description to any tools like this if they'll help you out around the house. So I'm going to locate my floor joist. That should be 16-inch on center. And then once we locate that, I do need to cut a hole in this drywall to see what's going on. I expect a hot and cold 3/4 inch copper water line right here. That would confirm I'm in the right location. And I do not recommend you cutting your drywall right at the corner, because if you're going to repair that, that's going to give you a corner bead that you need to repair. And then if you have knockdown texture or popcorn or any other texture on your ceiling, it's a little harder to fade it in. So although I want to be close to my outside wall, I'm going to back it out a little bit so it makes the repair easier in the future. But I will also outline another option to cover up this access hole if you don't want to be doing the drywall work or you just need a temporary fix. Now you'll see why I like the stud finder so much. It's actually 3-in-1, so it gives me multiple different references on where the fasteners are holding the drywall to the floor joist. Now I'll just take the keyhole saw and open up a hole between the joists to see what we're working with. So now we got our hole cut and we can see how close or far off were we. All right, good news, bad news. So if I look to the outside of the house, there is the rim joist, so we'll have access to drill a hole, a locating hole from inside out, and then drill our actual hole from outside in once we confirm it's in a good location for the outdoor faucet. But if we turn around, I see 1/2 inch water lines feeding this bathroom, so that is not the 3/4 inch that we're looking for. Let me grab the light here. And see some Romex, 14 gauge Romex. I was wrong about that pipe for the exhaust fan. So actually this bay, I still have access in the unfinished spot, and that 3/4 inch copper tube I stuck through there to locate. So just a little adjustment in plans, but hopefully we won't have to cut any more holes. So you can just go ahead and leave that bit, it'll make it easier to locate. All right, so now from the outside, there it is, nice. So that should give us room in the flange up top to not hit this top siding piece, and should mount nicely, and it's tucked behind this bush right where I wanted it. Then you can just expand it out to the hole size you need. I'm going a little bit larger with the 1 inch. I have some future plans for this location, and there's the finished product looking from the inside. So for this project, we'll be running 1/2 inch PEX B. That is how I'm going to pull from my existing copper 3/4 inch cold water line. I'll pull 1/2 inch PEX from there with a shutoff valve in the open utility area of my basement, and then pull that all the way out to the outdoor faucet. Now at this point, I do like to finish up any of my drywall, at least the cutting work, because that's super dirty. So I'd go ahead with my hole saw, and if I was going to patch, I would just cut it to whatever my patch size is going to be. Or if you're going to do the other route, which can be a temporary fix or a permanent fix, it's your decision, and that is one of these access doors where you can actually mount the frame to the studs like I'm doing here, and I had to cut about halfway on each of the floor joists to fit that frame in. Just screw that to those floor joists, and now I have an access door for future maintenance. Maybe I put a shutoff valve right here, maybe I'm pulling my water line right here, but for me, this is just an example. I am going to eventually just drywall this again because I'll have my shutoff valve and my attachment points in the unfinished part of my basement. Also, I'm going to install this PVC contraption here, and it might be a little confusing. What the heck is that actually going to be used for? But that will make a whole lot of sense here in a moment, and it's one of the best tricks that I've found over the years to make future maintenance so much easier. The plan is to tie into that 3/4 inch copper cold water line. So I'm gonna make up my fittings here out in the open. It's much easier, and I'm using press fittings, which I do not have the fancy rigid or Milwaukee press tool, which is several thousands of dollars, and that's what the professionals use. I just have this manual crimping tool from Amazon, and it works, but it needs a lot more clearance as you need to extend those handles out to get the leverage needed to properly crimp. And the crimp is what's giving you the mechanical connection. That's really tying the copper pieces together. And then there's a rubber O-ring on the inside that's truly sealing that. Similar to Sharkbite fittings also seal with the O-ring, but the shark teeth are what mechanically hold it onto the copper or PEX or CPVC. So I'm gonna put that ball valve in there so I can shut off this circuit, and then I'll just extend out another piece of copper here, and then that's what will convert over from 3/4 inch copper to the 1/2 inch PEX. Now we'll take that and we'll bring it into the basement space. And I'll just start marking things out because I'll need to cut out a piece of this copper water line. About 1 inch is going to give me the proper clearances. Now this is just a normal T, so I need a little movement in those copper lines or I'm not going to be able to fit that T in. If you have no movement at all, you might need to get a slip fitting that would be able to slip on one side, move past the other, and then bring it back the other way to properly seal. I'll show you a Sharkbite example here in a second. So I'm just using a 3/4 inch auto cutter. That's my preferred way to cut 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch copper lines. Drain out the water. I drained everything off. I have my main shutoff off, but you're always gonna have a little water. So obviously we have our water off at this point, or we would have a massive mess. Now, once that's all drained out, or at least close to drained out, I did kind of correct myself. I was gonna cut the other direction, but then that was gonna make the crimp very hard. So I took off the 1 inch piece here, and I'll fit the T fitting in with all the other pieces here, and I will have to kind of negotiate that in, but I was able to get it in and get it fully seated on both O-rings. You want to make sure the copper line goes in about 7/8 of an inch, right under 1 inch. If you don't, your O-ring might not be sealing correctly. So it's always good to mark your copper line so you can actually see those. So we'll do our first crimp here. Again, it's a little hard getting that crimping tool on. You need to open up each of those arms all the way out and then extend them out so you can get as much leverage as possible, and then go ahead and crimp that down to get a good mechanical crimp, and then that O-ring should seal things off. So kind of the last tricky part and button everything up is getting it from this 1/2 inch PEX nipple here and getting it through this bay all the way across a hallway ceiling and a drop ceiling. So across there where I really don't have any access, and then over to the bay where you saw in the bathroom. Now you saw that copper pipe. This could be a PVC pipe, 1 inch PVC pipe. I just need something rigid that would give me a solid path through some insulation and a path that I know I can get through. And then I can take my coil, my 25-foot coil of 1/2 inch PEX, and I can run that through this 1/2 inch copper to give me a nice clean path, because I know and I saw that this copper was poking out on the other side in the bathroom. So this is really the only way that I could think to actually get the PEX through that space confidently and then pop out on the other side. And then once I get that, I'll go ahead and pull this pipe out and then pull the rest of the PEX through as slack. And then I'll have a complete PEX run from here all the way over to our bathroom, and we can make all of our final connections, and then also show you what that PVC pipe was used for. And then I just wanted to show you an alternative if you didn't want to get the press tool and use press fittings. I do like Sharkbites. I'm very comfortable with Sharkbites in unfinished spaces where I can kind of keep an eye on them, but to be honest, I would be comfortable burying them as well. So this would be an example of teeing in, right? We'd be teeing into that existing water line with a Sharkbite, and these stainless steel collars here indicate this is a Generation 2 Sharkbite. Then I'd either use 3/4 inch PEX or 3/4 inch copper to go over to a ball valve. So again, I'd be able to shut off that circuit, and then I would actually reduce down right here, right into 1/2 inch PEX. This is one of the big advantages. I can make that transition and reduction in one ball valve, so super slick, and then this might work out for you. Also, if you do not have any movement in your copper water line, remember, this is a Generation 1. You can see it does not have the stainless steel collars, but it has a slip end. So if you needed to slip this past and then get your copper water line on, you can do that with these slip tees, so they can be very handy and necessary in certain scenarios. So here's why we put that PVC in place. This is just to guide a service loop. So we have our water line coming in, and that goes through the PVC and then loops back through and then out the other side going to our outdoor faucet. But the nice thing is now this gives me capability to pull out slack to service that outdoor faucet. If I finish my drywall, I have no access, well then I'll have access from outside. I can push it back in, the loop expands, or if I need to service it again, I pull it back out. I can cut a little bit of the PEX out and put on a new faucet if we have a failure. Then I can push it right back in the wall. So super handy and sets you up for some easy maintenance and repairs in the future. And now we'll install the 12-inch frost-proof spigot on the outside. I'll crimp the copper ring slightly and then use the actual crimping PEX tool, checking with a go, no-go gauge to make sure everything's good. Also put down some silicone on the vinyl to just seal on the backside, seal off that hole we just created, and then 2 exterior rated screws to hold it in place. On the inside, I'll just cut that PEX to length and do exactly the same thing on this fitting, and now we'll have our line complete. All right, now you can jump outside and test out your faucet. You should have water flow, everything should be good on the outside, but you also might want to keep that stream going for just a little bit and go check your fittings on the inside, just making sure there's no leaks or no issues with the newly installed lines that we did. And also know, especially on these frost-proof outdoor faucets, the flat washer that seals off takes a little time to seat. So you'll see a little stream and then some drips. It will eventually shut off, but that doesn't mean you have a continual leak. It just is a new flat washer, so it takes a little bit of time to seal off. Now, if you want to finish your ceiling, you want to get back to drywall, you need some help with texturing, need help with patching, and you want to know why exactly I made up this jig to help out that exact project, check out this video right here, and you can go right to the 6-minute mark when I jump into the drywall work on that exact basement ceiling when I had a water leak just a couple months ago. So thanks for joining me on this video, and we'll catch you in that next one. Take care.